Unlike most women over 50, you're not afraid of the gym floor. You don't spend your whole workout on the treadmills or the Stairmasters. You want to get stronger, add muscle, and feel better, and you regularly reach for the 5 pound dumbbells. Well, you may not be reaching for the 5 pound dumbbells, but I guarantee that you're capable of lifting way more than you do. And whether you're scared of hurting yourself, feeling uncomfortable, getting too bulky, these limiting beliefs are costing you. What you should be scared of is getting weaker, losing muscle, and having a worse quality of life. Because if you're not lifting heavy, then all you're doing in your workouts is massaging your ego, giving yourself a pat on the back for going through the motions. You're tricking yourself into believing you're working towards your goals. But what really happens? Your progress stalls, you look the same, feel the same, or worse. Maybe now you're lifting less than you did 5 years ago. That sucks. My name's Ian, and I've spent a decade helping women over 50 get stronger, and I'm going to tell you why lifting heavy will make your life better. All right, so picture this. You're in the gym, you've been going there consistently for years, maybe 2, maybe 5, maybe 10. You show up, you do the work, and you're proud of that, and you should be. Showing up for a regular workout routine is one of the hardest things that people can do. You're already doing the hardest thing. But every time you go to the gym, you walk past the heavier dumbbells or the heavier weights. You just grab the same weights you've been doing for the past month or two, and you just go through the same exercises, never really progressing. Yeah, the weights feel a little bit easier than they did before, and you feel good about that. But 6 months from now, you look in the mirror and nothing has changed. Your energy isn't any better. Your body isn't different. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you're wondering if this is just how getting older feels. Is this what getting older looks like? And I'm here to tell you it's not. The problem isn't your age. The problem is the weights and the way that you're exercising. The only way to make progress in the gym is to continually challenge and push yourself. And what that means is that when you go into the gym, you have to do more repetitions, more sets, or a heavier weight than you did the last time. And what happens for a lot of people is they will just keep that the same. They have their workout routine and they just go through the same exercises, same reps, same weight over and over again. And of course, eventually it feels a little bit easier. But I think one of the false beliefs a lot of people have is that your workouts should feel easier the more fit you are. Now, when I say that, I mean, people will think they're getting more fit when really they're kind of just plateauing. Because when you exercise, it should always feel hard. The actual perceived level of difficulty will go up over time, not down. Why is that? Because the fitter you are, the more intensity you're capable of achieving. So what that means is that if you were to walk in the gym fresh off the street, never worked out in your life, you're not going to be able to do too much. But if you've been lifting for years and pushing yourself, you're going to be capable of so much more in that given workout. So what that looks like is the person who's been training for 2 years, continually pushing themselves and lifting more, they will be able to achieve a level of discomfort that would be unimaginable to the person walking into the gym for the first time. And I think that this belief that you should feel more comfortable or it should be easier the more you work out is completely false. It will feel harder. But what that translates into is getting stronger, and then your life outside of the gym will feel much, much easier. I obviously have to touch on the bulking myth. It is an epidemic in gyms everywhere that women walk in and the moment they touch a heavy weight, they instantly explode into a bodybuilding physique. In fact, if you go in there right now and you walk over to the weight section, you will notice women weighing 300 and 400 pounds of pure muscle. It is almost impossible for a woman to become bulky in the way that they fear. It would take an enormous amount of eating, a level of training and consistency that's incomprehensible to most people, and probably steroids. What will happen to you with a consistent routine of continually challenging yourself and lifting heavier weights is that you will become more toned, you'll become more lean, you will be stronger, you will look better, and you will feel better, and your quality of life will massively improve. Another concern with lifting heavy weights is the perceived increased risk of injury. Now, it is true that if you are to lift heavier weights, there is a possibility that you will get injured, but heavy is a relative term. So if you were to walk in the gym for the first time and pick up the heaviest weights in there, then the likelihood that you could possibly injure yourself is high. However, if you have been properly progressing your workouts, lifting weights that are appropriate for your level of strength while still pushing yourself, the risk of injury is actually very low. What most people perceive as a risk of injury is when you start to push yourself, it feels very, very uncomfortable. And most people are very unused to this level of discomfort that they will feel. The way the muscles will burn, the way that the muscles will ache, the way that you will get this self-talk in your mind telling you to stop, telling you to quit. You can easily perceive that as your body saying, oh no, I'm about to get injured. When that is very far from the truth. If you are lifting weights with good technique and good control, then the risk of injury is actually lower than almost any other activity that you can do. Running has a greater risk of injury. All sports have a greater risk of injury. So yeah, if you compare it to laying on the couch, then technically laying on the couch has the lowest risk of injury, except the massive risk to every other system in your body of becoming unhealthy and increasing the risk of many diseases. So that's all to say, you got to choose your risks in life. Being strong is risky, being weak is risky. Which one would you rather choose, right? So what does heavy actually mean then? Heavy is obviously a relative term, and heavy is going to be different for everyone. Heavy for you will be different than heavy for me. I'm sure heavy for you is much heavier than what I can lift, but it's okay. I'm confident in who I am, and my wife tells me she loves me. But for you, how you want to determine what heavy is you just start somewhere, and that's the most important thing. Now, if you've been lifting for a while, then you've already had an experience with lifting a certain amount of weight for a certain amount of repetitions. Now you just have to progress that somehow. So you will lift more and more and more, and eventually you'll get to some level of heavy for you. But an easy way to decide if the weight is heavy enough is when you're performing a set of repetitions, you want the last 3 repetitions to 2 repetitions to feel very heavy, and you want maybe that exercise to slow down a little bit. It might get a little shaky, and it may feel like you can barely complete the last repetition. That's how you know that you're in the right weight category or you're doing the right amount of repetitions. If you finish the set and you feel like you can instantly go again, or you feel like you could have done 5 or 10 more repetitions, the weight is probably too light for you, or your repetitions are too little. And another way to gauge it too is, are you lifting heavier or are you doing more today than you were last month or 6 months ago? Depending on how long you've been lifting for, your progress can stall or speed up. Newer lifters will have much greater rates of progress than someone who's been lifting for a couple of years. But over a time horizon of a few months, you should be making progress every single time you're. Let's talk about the mental side of things, because this is the most interesting side of things for me. And if you are working out on your own, this will be the most challenging side, because when you do anything hard, your brain will tell you to stop. Your brain loves comfort. That's why it's so hard to get out of a nice, cozy, warm bed in the morning. That's why we prefer sitting to standing. That's why I prefer doing nothing to doing something. So just know that your brain is going to work against you anytime you try and do anything hard, like lifting weights in a gym. So when you're lifting weights and you start to get that self-talk that tells you, it's too heavy, you don't need to do this, you don't have to do this many repetitions, no one's going to know. This is the battle that you must win every single time, because if you don't, that's where your progress stalls, and that's where you're basically wasting your time at the gym. You could be going for weeks, months, and years and never see any progress because you're listening to that little voice in your head that's telling you, you know what, I don't need to do this. That's enough. You've gone through the motions for today. But really, we're not in the gym to just be soft, right? We want to be great. We want to improve ourselves. So we really have to push past this. But what ends up happening is we end up with an almost even greater psychological and mental transformation than physical, because I guarantee you, unless, I mean, I'm not here to judge you, you may be going through some war right now or something like that. But for the average person, we live pretty comfortable lives. So for most of us, the gym will actually be the hardest thing that we face in the day. But when we go through those workouts repeatedly, it makes everything outside the gym, not just physically, but mentally, so much easier to deal with. If you know you just picked up hundreds of pounds and you push through a workout, and you also know that you're the 0.1% of the population that regularly goes to the gym and works out very hard, you're walking around the world kind of feeling like a superhuman, like you can do anything because whatever comes across your way physically or mentally, you know that you've already done something harder than that on a regular basis. So next time you go into the gym, I challenge you, just grab a heavier dumbbell, go up a few repetitions, maybe do an extra set, but you need to get in this zone where you are constantly challenging yourself to do more. And I want you to make sure you record your workouts and look back on them and see, hey, am I lifting more or doing more today than I was last month or 6 months ago? Because if you're not, chances are you're leaving a lot of gains on the table, and you probably are to a certain extent just wasting your time in the gym. So if you want to get the best results, and if you'd like some help learning how to push yourself more and how to progress your workouts further, then the link is in the description. Join my community on Skool for free right now, and we will go through. If you want some help with your workouts, if you need some help progressing your workouts, learning how to push through, learning how to increase the intensity, or you just want to be around a community of strong women like yourself looking to get better every single day, then join my Skool community right now. Link is in the description, skool.com/stronger. You can join for free today. I look forward to working with you, and I'll see you there.